Mark Williams is his name. He has over 20 years of experience with the Ohio Auditor of State, and then the last 3 years he's worked at the Educational Service Center of Lake Erie West. So he'll be starting on Wednesday. And if anyone has any questions regarding my report.
I have a quick one. On the Fallen Timbers Union Cemetery District, I know they met right before this meeting. How is that going? Is that just a monthly meeting? Are they still meeting all the time? Or
well, we're still
status?
meeting more than once a month. We're trying to work through some of our land transfer issues, and there's some other maintenance issues, tree removal, just some quite a busy agenda, I guess you could say. So I think we're going to be meeting twice a month for the near future, I would think, until we get some of these things finalized, particularly the land transfers and that type of thing.
does somebody who keeps the minutes for that, are we doing that too?
Yes, we do that.
So we do the minutes and the finance?
Right.
Okay. Just so council knows, yeah, it's a group, but we've mentioned maybe eventually somebody will take over that bookkeeping. So
And
Waterville's
we
taking
pay
care of that now.
bills for the district as well. So.
Right. We did the training,
Right.
UAN training. So maybe on the minutes, council could get copied on, that way we'd know what's going on with it.
Okay.
Just to keep us updated so you don't have to.
Packet.
Yeah, yeah. If you want, or just email them. You don't even have to
Okay.
print them off, you could email them. Yeah.
Yes.
I just think it'd be good to have an update, and I know you gotta work through those agreements, but once we get those, I would hope it'd be, well, then we decide on the finance and the whatever other workers we need for the district.
How many months do you want for that? Is that what you want to do?
We don't need to just do it going forward, unless anybody wants to see the, I was just curious how it was going, so. Partly because we're heading it up, sort of, so it's kind of good to know how much time we're spending on it, so. Any other questions for the administrator?
I was wondering, John, if you could give us an update on the August 14th meeting with the Ohio Department of Transportation on the interurban bridge. Do you have anything you could add?
They had a stakeholder meeting, and predominantly that was directed towards adjacent property owners, the city of Waterville, the townships on both sides of the river, and they just kind of presented some of their findings on the condition of the bridge, which isn't very good, and they had some. They looked at different scenarios that from replacement to, and I say replacement like restoration of the bridge to removal of the bridge, and they're gonna hold a general public meeting in November and discuss this to the general public. But that's kind of what they were looking at, and their key goal, I guess, is to make sure that the river is safe for boaters and canoers and things like that. That's their primary focus, is to make sure it can be safely used by the public.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, seeing none. Next we have our law director.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. And back to our finance director / administrator.
Okay, council has a copy of the second quarter budget report, and that's from April 1st to June 30th. We are tracking as expected in terms of our revenue and our expenditures. In terms of revenue, the general fund's about 58%. Property taxes are a little bit ahead of budget at 60%. Municipal income tax, it's for June, that's 60%. Zoning permits, about 103%, so we have had some more activity in terms of new home construction, that type of thing. Local government payments, about 53%. The EMS fees are at 50%. The refuse fee is about 51%. The dedicated funds, Fund 210 through 300 and 330 is between 47 and 100% of budget. The 5-year capital in terms of revenue is at 36%. Grant reimbursements are still outstanding, and our note work is a primary funding source for the 5-year capital, which We sold notes in July, and this is our second quarter budget report that goes up to June. The water operating fund is at 46%, and it's about the same as it was in 2017 and 2018, so we're where we should be there. And as we've discussed previously, the fund varies in terms of the water usage. Earlier in the year, it's less, and it increases as the summer season picks up. Sewer water debt funds, they're all basically where they need to be, and the majority of the revenue for these funds comes from our notes that, again, we sold in July, so they're not reflected in our second quarter budget report. Expenses, general fund is about 48%. Dedicated funds, the expenses run from 0 to 59%. 5-year capital, the actual spending on the capital improvements are still fairly low at about 20% as of June. We have finished some projects. The Michigan Avenue paving is pretty much done, and we'll be making payments for capital projects as the year goes on. And the enterprise funds, those are between 0 and 43%. So again, it's in terms of expense, that's a good number there. At the end of the second quarter, our revenues were $4,871,055. Expenses were $3,902,983. We ended the month of June with a cash balance of $6,765,449. The reader reports are also enclosed for July and August. July's collection was $361,455. August collection was $231,326. Our year-to-date collection is $2,536,983, which is about 72% of our budgeted income tax revenue. So I guess we're a little ahead in that regard in terms of our income tax collection for this time of year. So.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on the finance report? All right, seeing none, next we have our treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Our 100-page 2018 audited financial statements were certified in the middle of July and were released by the state in the middle of August. So I do have a report on the audited financial statements. I'm going to sound like a broken record, which is a very good thing in regards to this. But again, you have my report in front of you. We got a clean opinion. They also test for our internal controls, and as you can see, they did not identify any deficiencies that they considered to be material weaknesses. They also do some sample tests, so you can't get a lot better than that, when all is said and done. So pretty successful. So John, first of all, congratulations on your last finance committee or finance report, and on the audit of the financial statements. It's job well done from that perspective. As I mention every year, I know you don't want to read the 100 pages of the audit report. I don't either, really. But as I always mention, pages 3 through 12 of the audit report are more layman's terms, and I think it's really helpful if you guys, at least if you do nothing else but read this, it's very helpful. I have about 10 copies of pages 3 through 12 over there by my chair, so if anybody wants to grab some, feel free to grab them. Again, I think it just gives you a good summary of what goes on in the city. I always like to, as you know, I always like to take the opportunity with the audit report, kind of look at where we're at with debt, because I think that's important. I think it's important to council. And as you can see, I've just updated my debt schedule from the prior year. And again, if you look at the governmental activities, again, you can just see they've been going down, 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 which is certainly the trend that we like to see. The business type activities, which is the water and sewer, et cetera, again, with the one exception in 2015 when we put the water line in and had to borrow the money, again, general fund balance, which I know most of you are aware is very important with our bond ratings and everything. About almost $1.8 million at December 31st of 18 versus about $1.550 million prior year, so it's very healthy. Bond rating agencies really love seeing that good general fund balance. So the audit wasn't quite ready for the finance committee last week, so it wasn't officially approved at that meeting, but it will be looked at and approved at the next finance committee meeting. So with that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. And you said you did bring copies of 3 through 12?
3 through 12 are all
I was
right
gonna say
there.
that, or they could email it, but yeah.
Yeah.
That is good to read once a year. Just a congratulations to John for another great year. And he did receive the award from the state auditor, but he did not bring it out here to show it off, so it's in the office.
Good.
So we'll put it with the other ones. Only so many entities of the 5,900 that are audited in the entire state receive the auditor's award. You can't have, besides all the indicators the treasurer just went over, can't have any comments, you can't have any material weaknesses, you can't have any findings for recovery, you can't be in the news, it's kind of subjective. You can't have any public records issues or anything. So it's a pretty stringent audit, and it's a big achievement. I do know that now this year, that there's only a certain percent. Yeah, there's only a certain percent that actually get the award every year, and they did mail it to John, so he does have it in their council. So we're very grateful that he kept up that great tradition. We've had quite a few, but I mean, it's great to have a whole wall of these. So hopefully our next finance guy person will be up for that challenge. But thank you for keeping track, and Steve helps a lot too, so we appreciate, and Shelley. They all do a really, really nice job. So I just wanted to echo your comments on that.
Sure, thank you.
So, any questions? But take a look at it. It is some good information
Really is.
they look at.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have our new police chief, Chief Valvano. Got to get used to the new name.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You should have my report. I have a few things to add to that. We received 11 applications for our opening police officer's position. Not as many as I thought we'd get, but I guess we'll have to work with that. Looking forward to Rush to Booth. We're working on a booth. Katrina, we met the other day. Hopefully we get a good spot up there. We're gonna have a car up there with our motorcycle for the kids to go in and out of the car, play with. Lexapol, that's our new policy, police department policy. That's gonna be a priority of mine to get that done hopefully before the first of the year. And our remodel job has been approved, finished. Last inspection was today. So we appreciate you guys allowing us to do that. Other than that.
So the first day and a half's been great. So far. Has it
Very
been a
good.
day?
I'm glad
Today's
it's
the
over.
first
It's
day.
been very tired.
Doing great. Any questions?
Joe, I think you sort of answered. I just, again, congratulations. But any
Thank you.
other transitional plans for the short term that you need council's support at the moment, or?
Nothing right now. I was gonna meet with John maybe sometime this week and talk about the promotion of the lieutenant. Hopefully we can do that before the first of the year and go from there.
On the 11 applicants you have, what's the procedure? What's the timeline to review them? And
Right now we'll have to go through them. We'll email them with a date when they can take the written test, and then we'll have the physical, or I guess the agility test after that. So hopefully we can get that done in the next couple weeks.
so would all 11 go through that step, or would you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Next, we have our fire chief.
Good evening. You have a copy of my report also. I have only a few things to add also. Our applications came in for our full-time position also. We didn't get as many as expected either. We ended up with 4 So we're gonna go through those 4. Timeline on that is they're gonna have to take a written test, and then they'll have to pass an agility test also. And then they will also have to take a physical test through a doctor. And then after that, we'll take care of interviews and go from there. So all 4 candidates are gonna go through the process. We have picked up 4 part-time applications in the same amount of time. So it seemed like we got just as many part-time applications as we did full-time in the same amount of time. But 2 of them are moving through pretty quick. The other 2, we're gonna go through the process as quick as possible. Let's get the first 2 on board. As you can see in a copy of the report, our inspection process is picking back up steam. We have a part-time inspector who did a really good job of starting to help me out and pick up a lot of the inspections around town to get us back, keep us current with compliance. So he put together his own report and thought he did a great enough job. I included it in the back. So if you take a look, it shows the businesses and it shows what he's looking for in the future and what he's currently fixed. So it's a pretty nice put together report for him only being on the job for about 2.5 weeks. The last thing is Roche de Boeuf. We also are going to set up in the center of town. We're going to have things for kids and adults both. So, and we'll have applications down there for paid for call people too. So we'll hand them out while we're down there.
Great idea.
So come by and see us. We'll be right on Farnsworth, right near the old Fifth Third Bank, I guess, or Waterville Bank, however far back you want to go.
Perfect. That's a great idea. Is the person that did this, the inspections, he was able to be trained in it part-timer? Or
He was already
or a
a
volunteer?
part-time staff, so he
Okay.
was already with us.
Good.
He went and took his inspector on his own accord, and decided that he really liked doing it. And so I said, well,
Good.
here you go. You can help me out. I mean, I needed some help, and he offered it, and he's doing a great job. So
That's fantastic.
I'm trying to keep him going on it because he's doing a very good job.
Good.
Still some training to go, but I mean, he's picking it up pretty quick.
That's awesome. Any questions?
Yeah, just dug on your prevention report, which I thought was very interesting, but there were quite a few correction notices issued. Are those significant, or is it something to be concerned about, or is that just kind of par for the course?
Most of the time, that's par for the course. And I hate to say that, businesses do try their best. The code changes often. It is quite thick. So it's hard to have 100% violation free. It's very difficult, but most of the time they're very small violations. It's just kind of us, reminding people, hey, stay with this, or do this, and they comply. Very rarely do we ever run into major issues. There are a few, but most of the time we work through those too. But most of what you're seeing on that report were what they call de minimis violations, so very small.
That's good. Do you have to re-inspect then after?
Yeah, so they get 15 days to fix them, and then we go back. If they're not complete but they've made progress, they get another 10. After that, then it can go to the state depending on the situation. So we try to work hand in hand with the businesses instead of being too hard on them. I mean, most of the time they'll comply if we work with them.
Right. I know one of them that happens a lot in Perrysburg is if you do not have your fire extinguisher put up correctly. So you have to have more than one, depending on the size of your building, and if you had it sitting there, that is not correct. You have to have it, it was on the counter, but you
Yeah.
have to have it on the wall in a certain holder.
And they have to be signed
That would
off.
be a write-up.
They have to be signed off every 30 days, and most people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'll sit, and so a lot of times you'll see a correction notice, but that's because we're educating them to sign off on
Yeah,
their
on the
tag.
thing, on the tag, right?
And that's,
Or to
that's
recharge
very
them.
small.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of what comes across, so, that's good though, you need to remind them. Any other questions?
Quick question, do you have training tomorrow night
Yes, we do.
at the station?
It is at the station from 7 to 9. We are doing EMS training. Normally EMS training is the third Tuesday of the month. This month, due to the fact that we joined the tender task force, we took some back tanker training. So Swanton brought an engine out and helped us learn what a vacuum tanker is. So we moved EMS training to this week.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruin. I was gonna remind everybody.
But it is
Tuesdays
but
were
it is
funded.
at the station. So
Yeah.
we will be there. It'll be in the classroom. It's typically more of a classroom based than hands-on.
Is that one still fine for?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I forget what the topic is right off the top of my head. Captain Beekis takes care of the topics. So I'd have to go back and look at the schedule. But no, yeah, by all means, it would be
Okay.
great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Next, we have our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. You also have a copy of my report. I'm just going to do some updates on some of the projects currently going on. I'll start with the bridge project. It seems to be a pretty popular one. All the work pretty much is being done on the bridge deck right now. All the decking's been poured with concrete. They're putting up pillars, you may have seen on both sides of the bridge. The other thing they're doing is they're working on connecting the existing pavement with the new bridge. And the last progress meeting, they said they would like to open the bridge up mid-December. It won't be done, but they want to get traffic going on it. So I don't know. It depends on weather conditions, whether that'll happen or not. But they're kind of anxious to get people on it too. So that's where it stands right now. We got another progress meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll get more updates at that. As Mr. Gotenauer said, the urban paving project's pretty much wrapped up. There's only some remaining punch list items that need to be addressed. Other projects. The next project's Phase 6 downtown streetlight projects. We had a pre-con on that already. They're waiting on the delivery of the poles and fixtures before they get a schedule out to us. So hopefully that'll happen in the near future. 2019 paving program that began last week. That's in progress. And if you recall, the two streets that we're doing this year are Cedar Lane, north of Freedom Lane down to Mill Creek, and all of Disher Drive. The middle of Disher Drive today. That's the first one we're going to pave. ADA door openings at the municipal building. This has been going on for quite some time. Everything's a go on that. We're waiting on a pre-construction meeting for that. Hopefully that'll be in the near future. And that's going to be these two doors right here, Public Works Facility and the fire department, meeting room doors. They're just about wrapped up with all the pavement markings. You've probably seen them out doing a lot of that. They're going to do the downtown area prior to Grocery Book Day, so address that out. Other than that, I really don't have anything else unless you have some questions.
I have one for you. I mentioned to Mr. Gokenauer that the construction on Prairie Boulevard was making a mess of Prairie Boulevard, mostly the colony right now. A lot of mud, but anyway, he said that they are responsible to clean up a lot of their mess on the street.
Yes, they are.
There's quite a bit of dirt, and we don't want the new road to have weeds in it. But the other thing on that road that I don't know, there are trees in the right of way on Prairie Boulevard. So have we done a lot of work on those, or the tree commissioner, anybody?
They had a landscaper come in.
Even in the right of way?
About a week ago, and they started trimming them up.
Okay.
So they're taking ownership of them yet.
But then it will be us, right, to get it?
Yeah, they did about half of them, so I don't know. if they're
You might
gonna
want to
do
have
that.
someone drive up there and even, maybe it was even by Speedway, but the whole length of it, there, and maybe get the tree commissioner or somebody involved. There are a lot of trees that need some help that we discussed here about trees, and those are the cities, right?
Mhm.
So we're not doing all those practices that the tree commission told me. And I know there's a lot on that whole Prairie Boulevard, but if we don't come up with a plan, you're gonna have a mess, because there's like, they're not trimmed on the whole trunk of the tree where they get all the, I know the tree commission people know what all this is about, but you know, you're not supposed to have all the suckers coming off the bottom. The tops need cut. They don't have water to some of them, and those should be the ones we're kind of taking care of, I'm thinking. I mean, because that was the whole discussion we had a year ago with the tree. I'm sure you guys remember
They
that.
put additional irrigation systems in.
But I guess what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
these are the new trees, and they told us how we would take care of them, so that it wouldn't cost us a lot of money. So if you could go check it out, maybe
I will.
the tree commission before went down some streets and helped out. It's nothing really hard, or they could show some of the public works people, but it does need to be taken care of, or else these trees that have been there about 2 years, you're gonna have to replace them, then the town will have to buy more, so just something I noticed along with the road, so,
The truth is, they probably should have held off with all the construction going on.
right.
Underground wiring,
Right.
irrigation they were putting in. That damages the bridge structures and causes problems with them. So I don't know why they put them in right away like that, but I imagine they wanted to make it look
Probably
nice.
said they'd start growing. Most of these are actually growing, they're growing too much. The ones I'm talking
Yeah.
about, you don't really have that many that are dead. But if they aren't cared for like they suggested we do, when they ask for more money in the budget. So I just wanna make sure we're doing it yearly, not, if we need to either
Okay.
outsource it or have them help or
No,
get somebody in
I'll
public
talk
works.
to them about it.
Take a look at it.
Yep. Will do.
So, any other questions? Yes.
Kenny, we talked the other day, you know, Cedar Lane started. Any more comments on that 150 feet on Farm View, up to the school property? Is that able to be done, or should it be done?
Yeah, I really hadn't had time to talk to
Okay.
Mr. Goshenauer. He's been pretty busy. From what I know, I think the well's probably dry as far
Okay.
as any additional funding. I don't think we really have anything left of any amount or not that would take care of something like that.
Okay.
And I believe I believe, like I told you, I think it may be on the schedule for next year. But again, that's depending after we do the evaluation. You know, sometimes that changes, so.
Right.
We'll see how it shakes out.
And then, I know you got on this ongoing pothole repair, thank you. I do have a couple, I was out taking a walk, I'll send you a note, I got a couple places that probably need some attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a quick question, going back to the new bridge. So if they're just concentrating on the deck now and joining the roads, are they gonna be removing the temporary road that's damming up the river now? When is that gonna be removed?
Now, they'll have to use, they'll probably have to move it over some, because they're gonna use some of that for the removal. They're gonna hammer out those, I lost my word there.
The piers.
The actual
The piers.
Piers?
stem and that, they're gonna hammer all that out, so they're gonna have to have equipment down there on the causeway to take care of all that.
When do they project they'll be bringing those out though, that road?
Probably as soon as the bridge project's done.
That's
I think they'll
December.
start, be complete September 2020, at least that's the schedule.
Oh, okay, so we have to go through the spring with them, with
Right.
that temporary road in there.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to figure out, because they're gonna have to do a protective barrier between the old bridge and the new bridge when they do that, because if they're gonna hammer all that structure out, there's gonna be concrete flying everywhere. So they're gonna have to protect the people crossing the bridge while they're doing the removal.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Blair. Next, we have communications from council members or committees, and I'll start this evening. I just wanted to say a few words about our friend and former council member Chuck Larkins, who passed away. It was right after we had our July meeting, so it's been about a month, but just keep him in your thoughts and prayers, his family. They did have something in August for him, for a memorial for him, which was nice. He served on council with many of us for 4 years, and then he also, prior to that, served on some committees. I know he was on Parks and Rec, and I think he was on Public Works and a couple others. Most recently, when he was not on council, I asked him to serve on TARDA. I had just reappointed him, and probably why many people read about him, he was in the paper for that, because they had just made him the president. And so I just want to thank Chuck Larkins formally for all that he did for the town and all the committees that he served on. It was very nice. He moved out here in retirement, and he gave his retirement to helping out, which was very, very nice. So just wanted to take a moment to remember him this evening. And he enjoyed every moment of it in retirement. He loved committees, TARDA, and council. So just a quick remembrance. Then I had a couple other items. Just a congratulations on the second Oliver Hazard Day. Although, well, I guess the police chief spoke and he said there were no issues, so that's good. I think it went fairly well. I know they ran a little bit late, I think, and I think it went well, though. The crowd was a nice crowd, and they did a good job keeping everybody doing what they're supposed to do. And one other item, I sent an email, but the fire district update, well, I didn't send one on this, I apologize. Just a fire district update. We did meet in our smaller committee with the chiefs, the administrators, the mayors, and then a couple other members. The township can only have one trustee, otherwise they'd have a quorum, so they have like a resident on there. So what we did at this one is we got back together and we just talked about real generic things like what's the feedback everybody's getting, and I'm trying to think what else was on the agenda. We spent most of the time on that. Then we also talked about how to go forward. So the gist of the meeting at the end, we're supposed to come back, mostly White House and Waterville, because we have the two fire departments, and bring back some numbers, some ideas of what it would look like considering it on our own, if we had to increase our staff and our fire departments on our own, or I think that was it. John might have to help me here. I didn't bring all my notes with me. So I think it was more to look at the numbers on that regard, and we're getting back together in September. So we're not letting too much time go by. We're letting like a month go by and give the chiefs time to get some information together so we can start to dig into that part of it. So we decided it was worth, I guess our first meeting was to make sure it was worth getting together, you know, in a small group, and then second is to start comparing the options that we have. So hopefully we'll have more information for you. It was pretty broad-based, so it wasn't any particular information yet. It's just getting all of us together. But it was a pretty good-sized group, and the fire chief can correct me, but I believe the two previous chiefs that were sitting there were White House. Yes, so it was nice. We had, which I didn't recognize the one, so I didn't realize that. So we had a nice variety of people in the room, and some pretty good, interesting comments. We listened to everybody's insight, and then tried to give ourselves a couple duties to come back with. So we'll keep working on it. We'll let you know how it's going. Meanwhile, we are hiring, obviously, the full-time person that we talked about, and we'll be getting into budgeting right now. Mr. Gokenauer is getting into it right now, so you'll be seeing some more information on that probably in the budgets too. So that's all I had, and then I'll start with Mrs. Duncan.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Pedro.
Just the one additional comment on the Oliver Hazard Day. It was a great turnout, great for the community, and I know that the downtown businesses, I heard from a few of them, very successful in terms of having sales and just a good time. So thanks to the city and John Henry and his team for putting that on.
Thank you. Mr. Rosie?
Nothing around, just confirm what you said about the fire meeting, but yeah, nothing else.
Thank you.
Just a quick update on the cemetery
Yeah.
district, since the mayor did ask. We have now fully funded it, both with the Waterville seed money and White House seed money. All of the parcels have been conveyed except for a problem with one of the parcels over at the Mennonite cemetery. There was a mess up in a survey that was done probably quite a few years ago. So Mr. Dombey's been working through that. We're still waiting for a final lot split from the village of White House, and once that's completed, that parcel will now be conveyed to the district. We are up and running and paying bills now. trying to deal with some of the deferred maintenance at the cemeteries. We've got a problem out in White House with the well out there. We don't have water. And we're trying to work through that so that we don't have to hook up to the White House water line system. Hopefully that well will be able to get that up and operating. We're dealing with a lot of tree issues right now. The tree commissions are helping us out both with the Waterville and White House, trying to address and determine which trees are priorities. We don't have much appropriated this year for that, but hopefully into 2020 we can deal with that. So I'll try to keep council more up to date on the happenings there. We are still meeting twice a month, as Mr. Gokenauer did mention, and probably will continue to probably through the year. And that's it.
Sounds good. Just one more comment on that. Are we tracking our time, like, to do the finances? Because I saw quite a bit of it in your report, paying bills.
Not really, no, but,
Is it
we-
a lot? I saw
well,
3 items in there.
it's taking up more and more time, and
May I ask?
hopefully the new finance director will be,
Well, if we're not gonna, are they going to pay us to do it? I'll ask you. Like, will they pay our guy his hourly rate to do it, or could you find a bookkeeper to start
That's
keeping
what
the
we
UAN?
need. That's the other.
Can you do it at your next meeting? Like, otherwise, we need to track and bill our finance
We
person's
need to-
time. Okay.
It's one of the items we need
Which I
to
think would be
address
too
is
much.
to get some type of clerk.
I would ask if it could be on the agenda. Yeah, because it's been quite a few months, and we paid for the training down at, probably, I don't know. We paid our worker to go down for 2 days and stay. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't want to be nickel
No, that's-
diming it,
no.
but that's a very big expense, so, okay.
It's probably been.
So in
good.
2 weeks, bring that up, so, or I can try to come if you need me to ask it. Thank you for that update, though.
Yep.
Mrs. Bruno?
No report, but I do have a question, an update from Chief Valvano. Golf carts, I'm sorry I didn't bring it up when you were up here. I did have a citizen who is a golf cart owner. He would kind of like to see the boundaries expanded a little bit now.
Do you mind coming up, Chief, just for whoever's
Kind of give us
watching
an
it?
update of how it's been going over the past
Otherwise
year.
I
It's been a
can't.
year since we've passed that legislation, allowing them on, certain streets within the city limits. And, give me,
As far as I know, we haven't had any run-ins with any problems with any golf carts. I think they might be out more in the evening than during the day. I don't see too many of them during the day. We still do inspections. They usually pull up out front. We have a checklist that we go off of. But other than that, we haven't had any problems at all.
okay, that's good.
The boundary issue, I guess, we'll tackle that as it comes in. I know there's higher speed limits out there outside of town. That could be an issue, but as of right now, there's nothing else going on.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess, thank you.
Sure.
So just one citizen in particular, like I said, who owns a golf cart and has been enjoying the benefits of our newly passed legislation on that, would like to expand the boundaries. So I don't know how we'd go about maybe talking about that. Of course, late in the year here would be for the spring. But he works at Kaufman and he lives on Waterville, off of Waterville Monclova, who would like to be able to drive to work. So, which is kind of cool, right? So I guess I'd like to put that on the agenda. I don't know when. I guess I can talk to Mr. Gokenauer about that, when to bring it up for discussion. And,
Sounds good.
okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Bruno?
No reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, moving on to old business, we have ordinance 08-19, an ordinance amending the municipal zoning map of the city of Waterville to change the zoning classification of a certain 43-acre parcel of land, part of parcel number 96-25959 and parcel number 96-25961, located at 6730 and 6824 Anthony Wayne Trail from A1 Agricultural District to M1 Industrial District. We had our first reading June 3rd. Second was the 24th of June. Our third reading and our public hearing we had on July 22nd, 2019, and we tabled it until September 23rd. So I read all that just to say we are keeping that table until, because we told them we would And just FYI, we'll talk about it, but yeah, we'll think about any changes we might make to that. And the people who were at the meeting should be aware that that would be the date, but if you talk to any of them, that's the date to come back. All right, anything on that? Anybody? Nope. All right. Ordinance 14-19 is an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Waterville by granting a conditional use permit to allow residential use on a parcel zone C2 commercial district located at 33 through 35 North River Road. First reading was scheduled for July 22nd. Our second reading is scheduled for August 26th this evening. Our third reading and public hearing and legislative action is scheduled for September 9th. Any questions tonight on that second reading? Seeing none, next we have new business, ordinance 15-19, an ordinance amending certain sections of chapter 505 of the general offenses code with respect to animals and fowl. First reading is this evening, second reading is scheduled for September 9th, third reading and legislative action is scheduled for September 23rd, and this came from a comment from someone on Parks and Rec regarding dogs and leash laws. Mr. Gokenauer, do you have an update on that?
Yes, the ordinance, we amended section 505.1 A by adding 505.01A5, which basically defines on a leash. So it makes it more clear that you have to have an animal on a leash at all times under your control. The leash can be no more than 6 feet long, and then the second part of the ordinance adds a section 505.14E, which defines the term of dangerous dog, which is the same as is defined in the Ohio Revised Code. So adding some connectivity there and some clarity to the existing two sections that we have in regard to animals and fowl.
Thank you. Do we have any questions this evening on that? It clarifies it a bit more for the suggestion that the committee brought.
So B, John, section 50501B, that's already currently in the code, or is that on you also?
That's currently in the code.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could have looked, but I could have looked it up.
We included that in the ordinance because we had to renumber those sections.
Yeah, okay.
Legal question, prima facie, what does that mean?
Prima
Under
facie.
prima facie.
Oh, yeah, prime example.
Private, okay, thank you.
Prima
And then this
facie
does
case.
not involve private property, in no way animals can still run free on their own private property.
As long as it's fenced
Right.
It has to be fenced.
Well,
or leashed.
oh, so if somebody doesn't have a fence in their front yard,
Or they have an electric.
Or an electric fence.
Electric, same difference, gonna keep the animal in.
okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, that'll be our first reading. Next, we have Resolution 24-19, a resolution authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a contract with Highland Administrative Services, Inc., administrator of the Ohio Government Risk Management Plan for comprehensive property, casualty, and liability insurance coverages. And this is who we've used for quite a few years, and Mr. Gokenauer probably has a little more of an update.
Thank you, Mayor. We got a renewal from our insurance carrier, and we did have a slight increase in the premium that went up about $1,800. It's about 4%. We did add a significant amount of property. We did build a salt storage building, and we purchased an ambulance last year, and those were not included in our premium last year, so they're being added to our premium this year. So it's about $330,000 in additional property that we're insuring, and so that accounts for some of the increase to the premium.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, we need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have any other information or unscheduled business. Mr. Pedro.
Just wonder if some of our special guests, Rebecca and Logan,
Thank you, sir.
what did you learn today, and do you have any questions for us?
Well,
You don't
Okay.
have to answer.
No,
good to know.
there is no test at the end of the day. That'll be at school though, probably. I do have one item. The 911 consolidation continues. This is what I sent an email about. I hope you take the time, if you have questions, to contact the Lucas County employee handling it, Matt Hireman, so he can give you answers. There is a potential meeting of mayors again for the mayor group that has to vote as one. I'm not sure it's gonna happen if everybody can get together at the same time. And it didn't really say what the meeting was about. But I'm still under the impression that the next meeting, at the beginning of September, if the 911 consolidation vote is going to take place in the middle of September, that we should probably pass something as a council, everybody make their vote at the next meeting and say if we say yes or no, meaning who we want to, do the vote, someone who's gonna vote yes or no. So take some time, study it. If you have questions, please ask.
I do have one quick question, maybe, John, right off the top of your head, do you know what we pay currently for the service we're getting?
Well, we pay zero for the sheriff, but we pay, I believe, about $14,000 for the fire dispatching from Springfield Township.
I thought it was a little bit higher than 14.
It's about
17?
Yes, 17 or 18. But they're getting out of that business.
They are.
So,
They haven't yet, they're gonna extend it for a year. I've talked to Chief Kuzno, they're gonna extend to see what happens with consolidation. If the consolidation does not happen, they're going to take the dispatchers from consolidated and slot them into Toledo Fire. So we're anticipating not much of an increase if that happens. We will see an increase if they consolidate.
well, either way, I think you'll probably end up paying. The sheriff's office tried to charge people before, but not everybody was paying, so that's why Waterville isn't paying. Waterville did pay initially the first so many years. There'd probably be some good figures for people who weren't on council. Tim would be the only one that was there, and Barb. I remember it was approaching 6 figures with Mommy. It was high, and that's why we changed. So that might be some good information. You might want to know what we paid in the past. So we have paid in the past, but the change with this would be townships have never paid. That's really who it's hitting. Right now, we say 0, but you have to go back and take a look. Since Mommy, we can get that information. It's just good for you to understand, but it will be more money. But consolidated, their thing is it would be for every homeowner paying towards it versus, I don't know. So we'll see. Take some time, ask your questions. I'm just giving you a reminder that we should have some kind of vote, and if you're saying no consolidation, then there might be one mayor representing the no vote going to the meeting of the 5 entities, or a yes vote. So that's all I know right now, so where we are right now, but yes. And it may not matter what your vote is, if 3 out of 5 are voting to consolidate, so. You still get a vote. You get a vote for somebody else to go vote, so it's very confusing. Read the Ohio Revised Code, it's in there, so. Any other information or unscheduled business? All right, if not, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting adjourned.